Welcome to SatoshiCryptoMoto, crypto, coffee, commentary, and today it's going to be while we're commuting. I'm all about peer-to-peer money and individual financial empowerment within a unified global community. Today we're going to talk about what is Bitcoin. I'm going to discuss that because very soon, well, it's happening now, the 2-year bear market is done. We are definitely in a bull market, and while it's doing that, the market is just going to be going up and up and up like that, up and down, but it'll have an upward trajectory. So in other words, many more people are going to be talking about it at the water cooler, and I want you to be able to be the one that people respect as knowing what they're talking about, because as I've talked with people on the street or out and about, very few people really still, the majority of people have not heard about it. But those who do hear about it, the vast majority of people who are aware of it have no idea what they're talking about, but they come across as, oh yeah, I know what it is, blah, 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 and they'll start talking about some things that they hear about in the fake stream, lame stream, CNLSD propaganda press that is, there's really not a lot of truth about what they're talking about. There's no depth to what they're talking about. So listen to this video and you'll be able to really, by going over the video, be able to talk about what Bitcoin is with some depth. The first and most important thing to remember, it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. On Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, on the front of it, that's what it starts out with. It's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. But today we're going to talk about that and DLT, or it employs a distributed ledger technology. It's electric money on the internet. It's asset-based. It's mathematically designed. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be mined. So far, there has been 18.23 million that have been mined. I'll get into that later. It's inflation-resistant. It's sound money. It is secure money. It's unhacked. It's immutable, which means that for merchants, especially, that's especially valuable because there will be no chargebacks. Once it's executed, once it's transacted, it can't be reversed, which is awesome. And it's the first currency in history without a king. But before I get into those topics, I'm going to try to get this all done in about 10 minutes or so. But before I do that, I'll talk a little bit about the history. It came live to the world in 2009, on January 3rd. January 3, 2009. And that was when the first block was transacted. But Satoshi Nakamoto, what he did, what Bitcoin is it's a code. It's a computer code that resides on what's known as the blockchain. It's blockchain technology. Many people think that Satoshi Nakamoto invented blockchain technology, but that's not true. Bitcoin is like the first, email was the first application on the internet, and Bitcoin is like the first application on blockchain technology. But there were several projects that tried to do what Satoshi Nakamoto did in Bitcoin. Famously, or very notably, there was a computer scientist that is still very, very valuable to this ecosystem. His name is Szabo, Szabo, I believe he's spelled. Some people think he is Satoshi. Who knows? No one knows. But he had a project that was called BitGold, and there were other projects that existed previous to that, but they never did really get off the ground, and the government shut down one of them or some of them. But the thing that Satoshi accomplished with Bitcoin, you fast forward to today, it's incredible. It was practically imperceivable that this would take place, going from under a penny to being worth today, at this moment before the video, is $10,123 per Bitcoin. It has a present market capitalization of 184 billion with a B, and the entire crypto market has a market cap of about 300 billion. Today, before the video, it was at 295 billion. And so it is also Bitcoin in particular was the number one greatest rising single asset of any kind whatsoever during the entire decade of the 2010s. It rose like 9 million%, I believe it was. There was nothing else that even came close. So it came out into the world in 2009. The first Bitcoin transaction, I believe, was about a week later, where Satoshi Nakamoto sent 10 Bitcoin to Hal Finney. Hal Finney he's passed away now, but he was a computer scientist who, we understand, did some work on the code. And then Satoshi Nakamoto went dark in about 2010 or 11, very early on, and no one's heard of him. We don't know if it's an individual or a group of people. I tend to think it was one individual. It's just my opinion. It was just brilliant. And then he passed on the project to Adam Back. Adam Back was mentioned in the Satoshi Whitepaper, and he essentially continued to promote the project. The first value transaction of Bitcoin was, I believe it was May 10th. It was May of 2011. Someone bought 2 Papa John's pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. And at today's $10,000 per Bitcoin, that cost $100 million is one way of looking at it. But so that's just a little bit of the history I wanted to make sure you're up to speed on before I mentioned. First of all, it's a peer-to-peer electric money on the internet. And the reason why the peer-to-peer is so game-changing and monumental in history-making is that what that means is that it eliminates middleman. There's no intermediary. And for several centuries, that's the way that the traditional financial system has worked. There's been an intermediator, which basically is a money sucker. It's a rent seeker. Bitcoin has proven that there's no need for that. And so there's no third-party risk. And it is so important because it minimizes a lot of the expense. It minimizes time. And you've heard the proverb that time is money. Well, absolutely, time is money. When you could minimize the time with this money being on the internet and electric, each block on the Bitcoin blockchain is executed every 10 minutes. And so instead of, if you wanted to send money transcontinental, it could take 10 minutes instead of 10 days. Some of these billion-dollar transactions take many, many days. And if you're looking at 1% fee or even a 2% fee, a 1% fee for an intermediary, the banks, on a billion-dollar transaction would cost, I think, what would that be, $10 million? It's absolutely mind-numbing. But there have been some billion-dollar transactions of Bitcoin and other cryptos where they take place and they cost 10 cents. So you can see how disrupting this is, and you can, simply put, that's just one itsy-bitsy teeny-weeny little reason why the traditional financial system does not want this. It disrupts them. So that's why the news media pumps out so much fear, uncertainty, and doubt about it. And when you hear these news feeds, they typically talk about it being used a lot for money laundering, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and gun running, all these illegal activities. When Chainalysis did a report which showed that for every dollar that is likely used for money, or every dollar's worth of Bitcoin that is likely used on the darknet for money laundering, there's about $800 worth in dollar fiat currency that is used. So there's a lot of dishonesty in the mainstream media meant to confuse us or really lie to us and deceive us. Enough said about that, but the peer-to-peer technology is extremely disruptive and extremely valuable to the common man. The DLT, or the distributed ledger technology, is game-changing because all through the centuries, previously there was just a one ledger technology. You look way back before they had a lot of paper, way back, there's just an entry on a ledger. Okay, the guy who sold you something would, if you wanted to pay for it later, well, he'd write it down. Okay, you owe me 10 shells for that, basket of corn. But then there was dual ledger technology that was, it was good for us because then he would write it down and then you'd get a copy of it. Well, distributed ledger technology is 3 ledgers, one ledger for you, one for me, and one for them, and the them is on the internet. So it's a record for eternity. It's on there forever. So what that means is that now we have a technology that promotes honesty. Imagine that. It promotes accountability. So that is a game-changing and historical feature that was implemented into its design. I mentioned before that Bitcoin is electric, and so because it saves time, wow, that is one great feature of it that really causes upward pressure in its price because it saves time. I mean, enough said about that. That doesn't even need to be discussed anymore. It's an asset-based technology. There's no debt. Now, when you compare that to the way that the entire global economy works, people can money print. And whoever prints the money, who's ever closest to the money printing, friends, family, bankers, associates, other people who you're close to, well, they stand to gain the most from that. And as it trickles down, it's just, there's no money printing. Well, put it this way, how Bitcoins are birthed are by what's known as a mining process, where all these computers around the world, it costs money to birth Bitcoin. So at the moment that they are created, then it's used as a reward. Let's see, right at present, you don't need to know a lot about this, but at present there are 12.5 Bitcoins rewarded to the miner who solves a complex mathematical problem. And that happens every 10 minutes. In May of 2020, so just it's under 100 days from now, it's so I think it's 80 days, well, whatever it is, it's gonna reduce to 6.25 Bitcoins that are rewarded to the miners every 10 minutes. And then 4 years after that, in 2024, it's going to be cut in half again. It's called halvening. So in 2024, May of 2024, the reward will be reduced to 3.125 Bitcoins for every 10 minutes. So it's becoming more scarce, which again promotes upward pressure on its price and its value. It's a little bit complex there, but what you need to know, main thing you need to know about the mathematical design of it is there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins mined, and that will happen in the year, 2140. So it's over about 120 years from now. And right now there's 18.23 million of them mined. So it is a way that creates an immense amount of security for the Bitcoin protocol, for the Bitcoin project. Bitcoin has never been hacked, and with every subsequent 10 minutes, every block that is mined, it becomes more and more unhackable, because anybody who would hack Bitcoin would have to have every transaction from the preceding block all the way back to January 3rd, 2009. So you see what I mean. So with every day that goes on, it becomes more and more expensive and impossible to hack. The inflation rate right now, it's at about 3.7%. So that halvening that I mentioned, which is going to take place in May of 2020, the rate at which they're birthed, well, the inflation rate, they figure, will then drop down to about 1.69% per annum. So at that point, Bitcoin will become the lowest inflated currency in the history of mankind. So it's a sound currency, meaning as soon as it comes into existence, it has value because it costs money to get it. It's a sound money. It's the most sound money in the history of mankind. So we know why people don't like it. Most people in the traditional way of doing things don't like it. So don't listen to them. So the mining is done at a rate of over 100 million terahashes per second. And that's one way of describing the tech of what happens. It uses what's called a hashing technology on each block. It uniquely defines it, and it uniquely identifies each block and each transaction. Bitcoin is immutable, which means that once a Bitcoin transaction is done, it can't be reversed. This is especially valuable to merchants because there's such great expense, and people are dishonest. When the Visa and MasterCard, they buy something, they bring it back, they got to redo things, or people flat out lie. So it kind of disrupts that feature of money. It has never been hacked. It's an unhackable technology, and it's the first currency without a king. And I love describing Bitcoin in that way because it separates military might and riches, and it does so without a shot fired. It's a peaceful technology, and that's one of the main reasons why it really tweaked my interest and why I started going down the rabbit hole in 2015. Fast forward to today, it's so many features about it that are really good for the common man. It's the greatest opportunity in the history of mankind for the common man to create wealth and to create transgenerational wealth. And so what's going to be happening very, very soon, because of everything that's happened previous to this, there's going to be great uptick in the price. This is not investment advice. I'm just stating this for probability's sake and for you to, I just suggest that you think about getting involved in it. There's only close to 30 million people on Earth that are involved in it right now, and it's starting to rise at a not a parabolic rate, but a geometric rate, and it's going to end up getting parabolic. This is all opinion, but I appreciate your time, and I really would appreciate it if you click on the blue man there, and stay tuned for more videos. Basically, this channel is going to be devoted to crypto, coffee, commentary, and sometimes doing it while commuting. Wish you well, and until next time, peace.